Let's start with the feet though. Basically, feet are quite complex. If you actually break it down, I'm not going to go through all the bones and moving parts of the body today, you'll be pleased to know, but there are basically 26 bones in each of your feet, and there are around 206 bones in your body. So we don't need to be experts in maths to work out that's a pretty high proportion of the bones in your body, and therefore, given that you're standing on your feet and you're running on your feet, they're obviously going to be quite an important part of all the moving parts of the body. And so, you know, that's why our vision really was, if we were going to find a sports shop that was kind of working across lots of different sports, the place to focus was feet. Okay, not so much maybe in the odd sport like swimming, but in every other sport, what you put on your feet really matters, and that's our key philosophy really. We think that the footwear is the most important piece of technology, the most important piece of equipment in running, and indeed in most sports. Okay, you can obviously make a case for golf clubs in golf, cricket bats in cricket, etc., etc., but footwear is important in those sports as well. Okay, what we find is that everybody's different. Now we have a foot scanner at Sporting Feet, which if you come and see us at some point, all our analysis is free, but we'll put you on our foot scanner to start with and have a good look at your feet. We find that everyone's got different feet, and in fact most people have got two different feet as well. So understanding that to start with is a good place to start. Okay, but fundamentally we think the feet are the foundations of the body, and that's where we should start. But our approach is about, first of all, looking at the feet. And from our digital scanner we can tell 3 or 4 key things, and they're all important. The exact size of the feet and width, and we normally find that people have got one foot longer than the other, sometimes quite markedly so. So when you're fitting a shoe, you've got to bear that in mind. You know, we're getting the optimum fit on both feet, therefore if you've got half a size difference, it's not quite so easy. Arch type, which we'll talk about again in a minute. We'll talk about the correlations between arch type and the way people run. And there are some correlations, although it's not hard and fast. Everyone's different, and we see you know, differences all the time and extremes all the time. There's no such thing as, you know, one thing follows from another. And then we'll talk about pressure points, and then we also look at pressure points as well, so we see where the feet are putting most pressure when they're in a static position. Then we look at leg axis. You may have heard a bit about this today already, I don't know, but I'll show you what I mean by leg axis in a minute. And then we do some manual gait analysis tests. So we do some static and then mobile tests to try and establish how you run. We don't watch you on a treadmill. I'll answer that later if you like. We think the ground's moving on a treadmill, and not necessarily the most reliable measure of how your feet interact with the ground and the ground forces that you put through your body. But so we watch you run as well outside the shop. Okay, so we call that natural gait analysis. I suppose the most important thing is it takes a bit of time. You know, it doesn't take hours, but it takes a bit of time to get it right, and that really is what it's all about. From doing that kind of analysis, you know, you'll see this kind of, you may have seen this kind of slide from people before. What we're trying to get to really is this part of the equation, and there is a definite correlation, and we'll go through it in a second, between people with, you know, the shape of your feet and the way you run, but it isn't always true. And there's plenty of exceptions, okay? But there is some correlation. I think what some people do is they probably assume too much, and you should never assume too much. And there's different things going on with different legs and different feet as well. But these correlations do have some sense. But essentially, what we're trying to get to is, you know, shout if you haven't heard these terminologies before. But are you a neutral runner? Are you the rare being, the supinator, or are you an overpronator? Okay. Are you all familiar with those terms? I guess you all are.